Welcome to my channel, The Binge Eating Therapist. I'm Sarah, former binge eater turned psychotherapist. And I want to ask you this question. How many times have you had that I've completely blown it moment with food and it has felt like the worst thing in the world? And not just that, you felt like the worst person in the world because once again you feel like you let yourself down. Once again you feel like you broke the promise that you made about how you were going to do things differently. In those moments, that voice kicks off and starts telling you, what on earth made you think you can do it differently? You're always going to be like this. What's wrong with you? Like, you're this, you're that. All those critical thoughts, that critical thinking comes in and it kind of pummels you into the ground in a moment when you're already feeling pretty crummy. A missing piece of this binge eating healing journey is that I don't think many people plan for how they're going to respond when they hit those moments. The temptation is to say to yourself, I'm just going to get it right. I'm just going to force myself to follow this plan. I'm going to force myself to implement this technique. Or my personal favourite, I'm just not going to let myself binge. I don't know how many times I made that promise to myself and meant it to the very depths of my soul. So then when I did binge, it felt like something just shattering and it's painful. And then that pain leads to despair. And then I would binge even more to cope with the despair. And it seemed like the more firmly I put these plans in place, the worse I felt when I inevitably failed. And then it seemed like the worse the rebound binge eating was. So this concept is crucial. You need to have a plan for how you want to respond when those moments come. I know what you would probably prefer. You'd probably prefer just to not have those moments. But when we anticipate them, when we understand that those moments are part of it, I don't think I've ever worked with anyone who hasn't had those moments. For me, it felt like I was deluding myself to imagine that I could ever not be somebody who binged. But this is what I did. And I can't remember if I've shared this on the channel before. I have shared it on the podcast. The podcast is Life After Diets. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend you do. It's this kind of content, but in longer format and with my buddy, Stephanie Michelle. So what I did was I would record a video to myself in the morning and I would watch it back at night. So I went through a phase of setting morning intentions. So I would get up in the morning and think, right, what is it I'm actually focusing on today? What is it I am trying to do that I think is going to help me when it comes to food? And these would usually be things around trying to stay present, focusing on enjoying my food, having regular meals, that kind of thing. And then I would record a video to myself for me to watch at the end of the day. And it would be me talking to me. So it'd be morning me talking to evening me. And in these videos, I would state my intentions. I would get very clear. If your intention is to just try not to binge, that doesn't work. I really don't think it does. If it did, you wouldn't be watching this video now. If you're not trying to binge, what is it you're trying to do instead? And try to turn that into an intention that's actually going to support you. So in these videos, I would state my intention and then I would talk to myself as if I had been successful in putting into practice what I had intended to do that day. And after that, I would then record part of the same message. I would talk to myself as if I hadn't managed to stick to my intention. And the way I would speak to myself was, I would ask questions and I would be curious. I would say things like, it's very strange to be talking to yourself and to watch yourself talking to you, but I would say things like, Sarah, what happened? Was that intention that we were setting realistic? Where did it seem to go wrong? What could we learn from it? How might we be able to do it differently? It's okay, we're okay. These kinds of things, and it was so soothing and it reconnected me with myself. Because whenever I felt like I'd blown it with food, I felt so bad that I didn't even want to be me. So I felt disconnected, but really distressed at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe some of you can relate. Now, you might not want to record a video to yourself, and that's absolutely fine. But why not write something out? What is it you want to be able to remember in those moments when you feel like you have completely blown it? Because you will feel like that again. And how you respond to those moments can be instrumental in whether you feel like you're taking a step forward or whether you've taken another 10 steps back again. If you think that you can do this just by saying to yourself, okay, I'm just going to try and be nicer to myself in those moments, probably won't work. Not if you felt anything like I did. Because in those moments, I didn't want to be nice to myself. In those moments, I wanted to give myself a hard time. I wanted to make myself do better next time. So the thought of trying to find any kind of curiosity and compassion in those moments wasn't going to happen. I needed that video of myself. I needed something outside of me in that moment to remind me that this is part of the process, to remind me that this can still happen. So how is it you want to treat yourself when you feel like you've fallen short of your own expectations? And there's two folds to that. One is to really check in with whether your expectations are realistic or not. And then secondly is to focus on the part of, okay, how do I want to treat myself? Knowing that I'm human, knowing that I have these emotions that can make me feel like one thing is true one moment and something completely different is true another moment. Do you ever find yourself sometimes not wanting to try something in case you fail at it? It's probably because part of you knows that you're going to feel horrendous if you mess up. But if you start implementing this and start figuring out how you actually want to treat yourself in those moments, suddenly failure isn't as scary because you know you're going to have your own back, and we have to have our own backs on this journey. There may be people around that can support you or not, but in those moments when it feels like everything's gone wrong, it's just going to be you. You're the only one who can show up for you in that moment. And this helps to build that better relationship with ourselves. And I'm of the school of thinking that I think our relationship with food can be a mirror of our relationship with ourselves. A big part of my recovery was really deep work on how I felt about me. For as long as I was focused on, I need to fix this food thing before I'm allowed to feel okay about who I am, that I just stayed still. Nothing changed. I remained stuck. You don't have to earn compassion and care. I personally think it's your birthright. But if you're somebody who's stuck and your whole method is you're just trying to stop binge eating by trying to just force yourself not to binge, I highly recommend checking out this video. We need to get clear about what we're doing. We need to have a plan and figure out how we want to show up for ourselves. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.